Ambassador Kilic is the special representative for the normalization process between Turkey and Armenia. Ambassador, welcome to you too as well. And Toivo Cloud is the special representative for the South Caucasus and crisis in Georgia. First of all, I'd like to wish everybody a very good morning. It's nice to see some bright faces this morning. I think the bright faces is because of this early start. I say early start because the 2024 Antalya Diplomacy Forum hasn't officially begun, at least in the sense of the opening remarks and welcoming speeches. That will be happening later on this afternoon. But here at the Antalya Diplomacy Forum, we're all about business, or I should say, we're all about diplomacy and geopolitics. So let's get down to business. Without a doubt, the region, the South Caucasus, is undergoing geopolitical transformation. And these changes present some very interesting opportunities for the countries, the partners that are involved. Not only do you have the war in Ukraine, the conflict in Ukraine, but obviously the Nagorno-Karabakh situation, Georgia's European Union membership talks. We also have the normalization process between Armenia and Turkey. All this marks the beginning of a new era. And by new era, I mean, in some respects, the end of an era. For many years, for many centuries, this was exclusively under the sphere of influence under Russian policy. 2024 is going to be an interesting year for all of the countries in the region. Let me begin this session. Just 2 weeks ago, President Ilham Aliyev and Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan decided to continue with peace talks when they met on a trilateral meeting on the sidelines of the Munich Security Conference. 2 days ago,
Thank you. It's my pleasure to participate in this. It's important to note that the peace talks had not stopped. It's true that after the events in Nagorno-Karabakh last year, there were no meetings on the level of the leaders, and there were no meetings, physical meetings on the level of foreign ministers, but nevertheless, the sides were exchanging their comments on the draft peace treaty. It's a positive development that first both leaders met in Munich, facilitated by Chancellor Scholz, and 2 days ago, as you mentioned, the foreign ministers met. Our assessment is the following. During the last years, Armenia and Azerbaijan on different forums have agreed the basic principles of peace, basically. Which are those principles? It's the mutual recognition, or rather the reconfirmation of the mutual recognition of each other's territorial integrity based on the Almaty Declaration. And I want to remind that this declaration was adopted by 12 of the post-Soviet states when the Soviet Union dissolved, and the major point of this declaration was that the borders between the former Soviet Socialist republics become interstate borders. The second principle agreed was that the delimitation and further demarcation of the border, state border between Armenia and Azerbaijan would be conducted on the basis of the Almaty Declaration. And the other major issue was and is connectivity, and it was agreed that all regional communications will be unblocked based on the principles of sovereignty, jurisdiction, equality, and reciprocity. We think that if we manage to to basically write in these principles which have already been agreed in the peace treaty, peace is more than achievable, and it's achievable in a very short time frame. Unfortunately, I can't say that we have managed to do that. From our side, obviously, we are ready and we are doing everything we can to reflect these principles in the peace treaty. We haven't been seeing so much eagerness from the Azerbaijani side, that at least that's our assessment. But we hope that we will reach this. So this is our assessment of the situation.
Mr. Hajiev?
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, I congratulate brother Turkey for organizing this event, Antalya Diplomatic Forum. It becomes one of the important diplomatic events globally, and we get used to know Antalya as a touristic center of the world, but in the meantime, Antalya and in greater sense Turkey has become the diplomatic center in the world, and I congratulated on this particular remark. With regard to developments in the Caucasus, and for Azerbaijan, war and a conflict is over, and Nagorno-Karabakh, there is no any longer such an issue for Azerbaijan. And Azerbaijan exercises its right of self-defense under the UN Charter and liberated its territories from the 30 years long military occupation. That's over for us. And Azerbaijan's agenda is about peace and regional cooperation. And with such an understanding, right after the war 2020, Azerbaijan formulated 5 fundamental principles of the peace agenda between two countries, I mean Armenia and Azerbaijan. And Azerbaijan also compiled the text of the peace treaty and presented to Armenian side. And it once again demonstration of the stronger willingness and determination of Azerbaijan to advance peace agenda. Diplomatic negotiations continues between the parties, and the recent Munich security on the sidelines of the Munich Security Conference leaders meeting was very fruitful and was in a positive atmosphere. We would like to advance based on such parameters. But in the meantime, peace treaty shouldn't be just for the sake of the peace treaty. There should be real ownership, and there should be real and genuine intentions for the peace. And from that regard, Azerbaijan also puts an emphasis for the bilateral component of the peace treaty. And our message is that peace lies between Baku and Yerevan. Peace is not in Paris or in Brussels or somewhere else. These two countries and should come together, making a peace and to advance that an agenda. There is a stronger willingness and political will from Azerbaijan side to transform region of the South Caucasus and to make the Caucasus as a region of peace and security and cooperation. And my president also suggested the model of the integrated region of the South Caucasus, where these 3 countries could come together. And our agenda is also about the regional ownership, in a sense where 3 countries of the South Caucasus should take the regional ownership, not just expect from the other side to impose on certain elements of the cooperation, and should also take a regional responsibility for the sake of the regional cooperation. That's an intention of Azerbaijan. And unfortunately, geographically, one can say that there is one region of the South Caucasus, but politically, unfortunately, that's not the case. For the last 30 years, since the independence of Azerbaijan, we have managed to build very fruitful model of the regional cooperation between Georgia and Azerbaijan. And Armenia could benefit from that, but there is a question that Armenia should answer. But one element about a peace agenda and a bilateral peace treaty, and recently Azerbaijan and Armenian delegations also met in Berlin, there is a still open question. In our communication, we also asking Armenian side, we are expecting proper explanation for the legal and also constitutional framework of the Republic of Armenia that still holds the element of the miatsum and also territorial claims. Miatsum in Armenian language, it means that unification of Karabakh with Armenia, but also part of the Armenia's constitutional framework. And Almaty Declaration has been highlighted here, but the Republic of Armenia still has 10 preservations with regard to the Almaty Declaration. These are the open legal issues that we do expect that from the Armenian side, there should be genuine peace treaty. But in the meantime, that's an agenda of Azerbaijan to advance a peace treaty, but we should, in the meantime, we should be careful some new developments, but unfortunate and also quite controversial development in the South Caucasus. That export of the geopolitical intrigues that exist outside of the region of the South Caucasus to export it to the region of the South Caucasus. Yet another development is building the new lines of division in the South Caucasus. That's often not helpful, and that should be taken into account in a very serious manner. But in the meantime, Armenia-Azerbaijan border and should be real border, and it should be line of confrontation. From that perspective, we also have a certain open questions to the European mission in Armenia. And also militarization programs and arms race programs shouldn't be encouraged any further. But Azerbaijan will continue to build any connectivity linkages in the region of South Caucasus. These connectivity linkages have started not because of the war in Ukraine, far many years before. And together with Georgia and Turkey, we have built railroad components, and we have built energy component of the South Caucasus, Turkey, and Caspian and Black Sea together. And now Middle Corridor gains a particular importance and prominence that will work together along with dimensions. And COP29, and we do hope that will be hosted this year in Azerbaijan, will add new transformative change to the region of the South Caucasus. And among that parameters, we also have a good potential for cooperation. And Azerbaijan, in the same line, will continue to also exert additional efforts for building Black Sea and Caspian energy pipeline and green energy corridor as well. Thank you.
Mr. Hajiev, thank you. Listening to both of you gentlemen, there is a genuine, you're stating from your own position, there is a genuine desire for peace. Listening to you two, I've picked up on multiple common denominators in which there are potential problems. I want to ask each of you one more question before we move on onto this panel. Problem or issue number one is the demarcation of the border between the two countries. You didn't specifically address this, but I also feel that there is the international guarantees when it comes to dispute resolution mechanism, and obviously the situation in southern Armenia and the connectivity. Which of these things do you feel is the easiest to achieve to gain some momentum? Mr. Rubinyan.
Thank you. I'll answer your questions, but first a couple of remarks regarding
Sure.
Mr. Hajiev's speech. Well, Mr. Hajiev mentioned that the Azerbaijani side expects some clarifications regarding the constitutional framework of Armenia. Well, first I have to say that the constitution and the legal framework of Armenia is our internal affair, and it has nothing to do with our peace process. I also have to say that Armenia has no territorial claims to Azerbaijan, and it has been stated many times. It has been also reflected in even joint statements signed by both the President of Azerbaijan and the Prime Minister of Armenia. But nevertheless, the best way to clarify, and I mean these from both sides, that the sides don't have any territorial claims towards each other, is writing it down on a paper and signing it. And it's a peace treaty.
Putting pen to paper.
Actually, in the draft peace treaty, there are two clauses which address this issue. First, it's written black on white that Armenia and Azerbaijan, and what I'm referring to are clauses which are agreed, at least preliminarily. One states that Armenia and Azerbaijan recognize each other's territorial integrity and don't have any territorial claims and won't have any territorial claims regarding each other in the future. And there is one other clause which says that the sides shall not refer to their internal legislation in order not to realize the clauses of this agreement. So the best way for both of us actually to assure each other that there are no territorial claims and there should not be any territorial claims in the future is signing a peace treaty. I know Mr. Hajiev likes to say that signing a peace treaty is not rocket science. Well, this is one of the cases where I have to agree. It's indeed not rocket science if what we refer to is basic principles of international law. And I think the principles of territorial integrity, sovereignty, respect of each other's jurisdiction, and opening all communications based on equality and reciprocity are basic principles of international law. So if we have an understanding of this, and at least before on a leader's level, we have confirmed our mutual understanding of this. Always left is technical work. Unfortunately, we don't see eagerness from the Azerbaijani side to reflect these agreed principles on paper, but we hope this will change.
Okay.
Your question was regarding demarcation and connectivity. Again, if Azerbaijan reconfirms the agreed principles and agrees to reflect those principles on paper, both issues are very easy to solve. I also have to say that regarding remarks about Armenia militarizing, well, Armenia is not militarizing. Armenia is simply building its defense. It's obvious that Armenia has security concerns which come also from Azerbaijan, and it's our sovereign right to build our defense, and the word defense explains it all. We don't have any aggressive motivation towards any of our neighbors. We recognize the territorial integrity of all our neighbors, and it's our sovereign right to have defense. At the same time, I have to mention that Azerbaijan itself has been and is continuously buying arms from different countries, and we have reasons to think that this is not only for defense. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rubin. And Mr. Ajev, I'll give you a short time to respond to not only Mr. Rubinyan, but also some of the question that I asked in the beginning. I'd like to move on after that.
Thank you. I'm thankful to Mr. Rubinyan that he makes a reference to my particular point that peace treaty is not a rocket science. Indeed, it's not a rocket science. When Azerbaijan formulated 5 principles of peace treaty between Armenia and Azerbaijan, we have driven by the guiding principles of international law. And actually it was Azerbaijan's proposal recognizing one another's territorial integrity and sovereignty right after the war. But the problem is that last 3 years, since the war 2020, Armenia was not a sincere and genuinely interested in the peace, because Armenia was building gray zone on the sovereign territories of Azerbaijan, but also resulted in a sense that Azerbaijan conducted counter-terror operation to liberate completely its territories. That's one thing. And second thing about the peace treaty itself. But Azerbaijan has compiled the text of the peace treaty, and it's in a sense positive that we see advancements step by step, brick by brick on the peace treaty itself. But there are certain legal questions that are serious. It's not my intention to interfere in the internal affairs of the Republic of Armenia unless there is a particular clause that deals my country. But the declaration on the independence of the Republic of Armenia, that's also in the preamble of the Constitution of the Republic of Armenia, and also official representative and legal representative of the Republic of Armenia, International Court of Justice, in their case of legal cases against the Republic of Azerbaijan, they maintain particular clauses with regard to territorial integrity and sovereignty of Azerbaijan. That's a serious question about the Azerbaijani side, and expecting proper answer from the Armenian side. And also border delimitation issue, Mr. Moderator, that you have asked. On the border delimitation issue, everybody knows that it's in a technical process, it's in a time-consuming process, but the problem is that last 30 years, Armenian side didn't contribute of building the border between two countries. For Armenian side, border was a line of occupation through the central part of Azerbaijan. That's one problem. Second issue is that 8 villages of Azerbaijan are still under the occupation of Armenia. But regardless of all of these challenges, our proposal and our idea is that step by step we should move forward, and on the border delimitation issue and peace treaty agenda shouldn't be hostage of the border delimitation process that's going to take some more time between two countries. But again, peace treaty, Azerbaijan's approach is that should be bilateral process, and should be also the process that Armenia and Azerbaijan should build the regional security of architecture between two countries that could also withstand different challenges, including the security challenges. And Azerbaijan's intention is to build the region of the South Caucasus that based on the peace and cooperation and the model of the integration.
Okay. I don't know. I wanted this to be an icebreaker. We'll sort of move this issue to the back burner for just a moment now and move on, because this is obviously not the only issue that's in the interest, in the crosshairs of the South Caucasus. Gentlemen, thank you very much. We'll be coming back to you in a little bit. Mr. Darsalia, let me ask you, I'm wondering how much of a challenge it is going to be for the Georgian leadership to sort of balance the desires and expectations of Brussels and the political ambitions of the Georgian leadership. Is it a tough balancing act? I think.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. And first of all, I want to use this opportunity and express our appreciation to the leadership of the Antalya Diplomats Forum organizing this event and organizing this panel, which is a very important one. Let me first of all say that from December, for Georgia, there is kind of a bit new reality when we got the candidate status. And for us, this is not the end. It is just the start of the big journey. And as we are on a panel of the South Caucasus, let me say a few words about in this dimension as well, that this decision has impact not only on Georgia itself, but on the whole region, I believe. Because for a long period, the narrative was that Caucasus is far for Europe, there is no big interest in Caucasus and so on. With this is decision not only important for Georgia, but I think for the region as well, that now we see that this was not the true, and that we have now that Europe and the European Union is part of and is actor in a region. I think this is important message through this decision as well. For years, Georgia, one of the obstacles for Georgia's European and Euro-Atlantic integration was considered the occupation of Georgian territories. And the other important message with this decision is that occupation is no more obstacle to the enlargement on the one hand and to Georgia's aspirations towards Europe. I think these are the two important messages which changes a lot, which changes the perceptions and at the same time makes it very clear that this path has the chance and that Georgia has the chance to continue its path towards European and Euro-Atlantic integration. At the same time, I just want to say a few words about the regional developments as well in this perspective. And here was mentioned, Mr. Hajio mentioned as well, and I want to agree with this, that when talking about South Caucasus was everything, geographical concept, I don't know, the area, but it definitely was not political region. I don't want to say that we are there, but at least today we have chance to have South Caucasus as a region, and this is important for us. We are with great interest watching the process of peace talks between our good neighbors, and we really hope that win-win formula will be able to be found in this approach. We are strongly supporting this. We even offered our help and our initiatives in this. For us, it's very clear. We see very direct correlation. Higher the tension between countries of region, more space for unhealthy influence inside of the region of the other actors. And for us, it's very important to help in this. Our role, we introduced the Peaceful Neighborhood Initiative. Our role, we see, is not offering what is already happening or the parallel tracks to this. Or what we are offering is that we see, while there is difficulties in bilateral, to have the positive agenda in bilateral setting, maybe it could be as a first step to have positive, to try to find positive agenda in trilateral setting or in regional setting. And this is what Georgia wants to offer. We enjoy trust from both our neighbors, and we value it very much, and we want to, from our side, strongly support the peace process in South Caucasus. We believe that peace does not have the alternative in our region. In this regard, we have some new opportunities as well, which have to be properly looked at. Now we all are talking in Europe about the middle corridor. We talk about the new developments, new role of the South Caucasus, which could play in this global connectivity concepts, and Georgia is strongly supported this, and we think that we can capitalize on this for regional peace as well. So we enjoy our traditional strategic partnership with Azerbaijan and Turkey, and we are engaged in a lot of strategic projects. Very recently, just literally months ago, we upgraded our relations with Armenia to the strategic partnership as well, and we believe that this will contribute to all these processes generally. But as already was said, we still are not there to have the South Caucasus as a region of cooperation and prosperity, but we hope that we can find the way to that. And last but not least in this, one thing is when we are talking about three countries of the South Caucasus, but for us it's very important that the other actors, our partners, also have their role and strong role in the peace process in South Caucasus. I really want to appreciate the strong role of the Turkey, which it plays in regional issues, and I want to highlight the importance of European Union and United States in the processes in South Caucasus, and Georgia is strongly supporting this. Yeah. Basically, I'll stop here and ask the other questions later.
I'll give the last word to the representative from the host country, Ambassador Kulic, in just a bit. But let me turn to Mr. Klar. Mr. Klar, Mr. Dasalia said that at least we have a chance. He's laid out an intention for a positive agenda. You've heard the positions of Mr. Rubinyan, you've heard the position of Mr. Hikmetajiyev. I'd like to get your assessment, a quick assessment of the region first, and then we'll get into more specifics. I think you may have to press the button.
Yeah,
okay. There we go.
No, right. Okay. Thank you very much. So I'd like to make three short points. First of all, the EU is engaged in the security and stability of the South Caucasus for the long haul. In particular, since Russia caused the OSCE and the UN missions in South Ossetia and Abkhazia to be closed down following its invasion of Georgia in 2008, the EU has been deeply engaged in the South Caucasus. We are strongly committed to the restoration of Georgia's territorial integrity through the implementation of the six-point agreement. And we believe that security and stability in the neighboring region is of vital interest to Europe. This is also why we have offered our good offices to Armenia and Azerbaijan to help resolve their long-standing conflict. Peace is not the absence of war. A comprehensive settlement that is perceived as fair by all sides is indeed required if the aim is to achieve real and lasting peace. European history of the last century demonstrates clearly the dangers of a victor's peace, and also the huge benefits of a peace that is aimed at reconciliation and at overcoming bitter animosities. Based on our own experience, we are therefore convinced that the aim needs to be not just a permanent silencing of the guns, but indeed what has been talked about here and what all the previous speakers have addressed actually is the achievement of a sustainable settlement between first of all Armenia and Azerbaijan that provides the basis for the prosperous development of the entire South Caucasus region. This should include building on past agreements, indeed, including the limitation of borders based on the ones that existed between the Armenian and the Azerbaijani Soviet republics at the moment of signature of the 1991 Almaty Declaration. It should also include and ensure the opening of those same borders to the movement of persons and goods including through southern Armenia, from mainland Azerbaijan, to use this word, to Nakhichevan. More broadly, it should lead to a general shift from confrontation to collaboration, from win-lose to what Rashid Arsalia here mentioned, to win-win thinking through cooperation on trade and development, as well as the shared management of resources, such as water, where I know also Georgia has been reflecting on its role. And finally, and here I want to emphasize that while the EU and European countries, and most recently Germany, have been and will be ready to offer support and good offices, we are also looking to Turkey and its potential for leadership in this region. Turkey is the immediate neighbor of Georgia and Armenia and has a very special relationship with Azerbaijan. For this reason, Turkey also has a unique opportunity to help forge a durable and prosperous peace. By opening the border with Armenia and restoring communication links, most importantly the Gyumri-Kars railway, which will provide another link between Turkey and Azerbaijan via Armenia and Nakhichevan, Ankara can give a very strong impetus to the stabilization of the South Caucasus region and cement its role as the region's leading power. My fellow panelists, the special envoys of Turkey and Armenia, have made significant steps for this normalization of relations, and we hope that this work will continue and provide concrete results. Ultimately, the decrease in tensions and the increase in trade and investments to and through the South Caucasus will improve the prosperity of all three countries and also of Turkey, which as the large neighbor and regional economic power stands to benefit most immediately from such a development. For the EU and its member states, there will also be obvious benefits, even if they are somewhat more indirect. First of all, peace and stability between Armenia and Azerbaijan will mean that we can finally focus uniquely on a positive cooperation agenda with all three South Caucasus countries. We will also be able, as Hikmet Hajiev here alluded to, we will be able to finally remove the unarmed civilian EU mission from Armenia, which we have deployed to provide reassurance of the EU's engagement and commitment, and which is an investment both in terms of human and financial resources. And not least, we will have reassurance that the middle corridor, of which the South Caucasus is a vital part, will function without disruptions, thus enduring an ever-increasing flow of goods between Europe and Central Asia and Europe and China. So there's a lot of interest from our side in pushing forward this process. Ultimately, of course, it is a process where the leaders of Armenia and Azerbaijan have to make the important decisions, but we are here and ready and to continue our work in supporting the way forward to a peace, in durable peace in the South Caucasus.
Mr. Kar, thank you very much. I think it's sort of a very sort of natural transition into what Turkey's position is. Ambassador Kılıç, Mr. Kar was talking about thanking Turkey's efforts in the region. If I could get a very brief and quick analysis from you, and then we'll sort of transition into the normalization process between Turkey and Armenia from there.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank ADF for organizing this event and for all the attendees for their presence in this important forum. Well, I mean, I can be brief or I can talk throughout the day. After listening to Ruben and Hikmet, and I believe that the audience have a clear-cut idea as to how sensitive the situation is and how, quote-unquote, difficult the ongoing negotiations between the parties. During our first meeting in Moscow, we laid down the basic parameters for the normalization process between Turkey and Armenia. And we decided that the ultimate goal is establishing full normalization, and also we agreed that we are not going to put any conditions to the conduct of the normalization process, and we adhere to that. And during that conversation in Moscow, I told Ruben that I don't see this as a normalization process between Turkey and Armenia, but rather a confidence and trust building process. And after listening to the views of Azerbaijan and Armenia, I even strongly believe that, more strongly believe that we need to somehow take measures in order to build confidence and trust. And we should concentrate on issues that will bring us apart rather than those that are going to push us apart, bring us together, sorry. And leave aside those issues that are going to push us further apart. After the developments in 2020 and 2023, I believe that now there is a window of opportunity because there are drastic strategic changes in the region, and we have to make use of that. For Armenia and for Azerbaijan, of course, we are doing our utmost in order to contribute in a positive sense to the ongoing negotiations between the two countries. But of course, the main point is, and Hikmet Hacıyev made a very valid point in that sense, there needs to be a display of sense of ownership in the region. I mean, trying to impose solutions from outside the region has been counterproductive and futile. We have seen that during the course of the Minsk process for 30 years. It was a spectacular failure, if you ask my personal opinion, and we should derive the necessary lessons out of it. We should give the opportunity to the countries to come up with their solutions. Then those solutions are going to live and lasting. But imposing to bring about a solution to the parties, I mean, it will be a futile attempt. And normalization and establishment of lasting peace and security in the region will not be only important for the three countries for the time being, and not the region itself, but it will be important for the entire Euro-Atlantic region. And we should make our best in order to make use of the strategic changes in that regard, strategic environment in that regard, and I believe that we have necessary instruments in that regard. I mean, I have listened to the differences of views, and I have been listening them quite some time. I know it will be not easy. It cannot be an issue that will be resolved overnight, but if there is the willingness, and if there is the political will to come up with a solution and establish peace and security in the region, there is a way to do that. And we can be creative enough to find a solution in that regard. And taking into account the positive outcome of the normalization processes between Turkey and Armenia and Azerbaijan and Armenia will bring to the peoples in the region, I believe that we can leave aside certain differences of views that could be overcome. And we could we can compartmentalize the problems, and we can adopt an approach which will say that nothing is agreed until everything is agreed. So we can defer certain issues to a date which the time will be ripe, the conditions will be ripe to deal with them. I mean, there is a well-known issue between Turkey and Armenia, and we agree that we are going to leave it aside until the time where the conditions are going to be conducive to talk on that and come up with a formula that will be agreeable to both parties. So, I mean, similar approach could be adopted by Armenia and Azerbaijan, taking into account the positive input the normalization between Azerbaijan and Armenia will bring to the populations of those two countries, and to the peace and stability in the region and peace and stability in the Euro-Atlantic region.
Ambassador Kulic, you say, you know, where there's a will, there is a way. Okay. And you talked about the fact that external interference hasn't worked and that there's a need for or distance negotiation not working. Okay, I hear you. But aren't you seeing the representatives of these three countries playing a more active in determining the region's future in terms of what they want and regional stability as well? This is actually a very important step as well.
Of course. I mean, as Toivo has already mentioned, we are doing our utmost in that regard. We are trying to make a positive input to the ongoing discussions between the two countries. And we are trying to explain to them the outcome of, the positive outcome of the normalization process between the two countries. And our normalization process, of course, is not conducted in Baku. We are also taking into account the other normalization processes in the region, so that our normalization process with Armenia will not have a negative effect on other ongoing initiatives in the region. But I have to return back to the point, the countries should be given the opportunity to come with their own solution. We shouldn't try to impose solutions on them. It failed for 30 years, it's going to fail the next 30 years as well. The countries should come up with their own solutions. And to that sense, we have to facilitate the discussions among them. We have to provide the necessary instruments that they can make use of in order to bring about their differences together. But I mean, this is not the situation for the time being. There are external involvements, and they are not productive. I mean, I don't want to name over here and name countries over here. I don't want to engage in a blame game, but this is the reality. We have conducted our normalization process, the basic tenets of the normalization process, with all the countries that are eager and willing to contribute in a positive sense to the ongoing negotiations. But some countries, I mean, we shouldn't make these normalization processes hostage to political considerations, national or ethnic interests. I mean, I would not like to go into the details of certain diasporas trying to affect negatively the ongoing normalization process between Turkey and Azerbaijan and Armenia. But we have to just provide the necessary environment for the countries that they will be able to conduct their negotiations and concentrate on issues that will bring them together, not push them further apart.
Okay. Mr. Rubinyan, I want to turn to you and actually get you and Ambassador Kilic have actually faced each other throughout this normalization process. I want to hear your assessment.
Thank you. Indeed, Ambassador Kilic is right. When we first met in Moscow, we set the rules of our engagement and the basis of our normalization process, which is that it should be conducted without any preconditions. And when it comes to Armenia, we are ready to have fully normalized relations and unblocked communications and an open border with Turkey right now. Today, tomorrow, if Serdar agrees, we can announce it right now.
Ambassador, you heard that?
Yes, and hopefully he will agree and will make this forum historic. But nevertheless, when it comes to the Armenia-Turkey normalization process, it's not a secret. This is the Armenia-Turkey relations have a huge historic context, and this doesn't make our job easier. Nevertheless, Armenia is ready to work for the present and for the future. That's why back in 2022, in July, Serdar and we agreed and announced publicly that we would open the land border between Turkey and Armenia for third country nationals, and later we added that we would also open it for diplomatic passport holders. Later we further elaborated that we would do that in summer 2023. Unfortunately, this hasn't happened yet from our side. We have all infrastructure ready, and again, if Serdar agrees, we can announce it now that we are implementing this agreement. But generally, when it comes to Armenia-Turkey normalization process, I often feel that there is big sensitivity from both sides, and this sensitivity makes the process emotional, sometimes in a negative way and sometimes in a positive way. For example, in 2023 we had a historic moment between our countries when after the earthquake in Turkey, for the first time in 30 years, our land border was opened for, I don't know, 20 minutes, so that trucks from Armenia with humanitarian aid could cross to Turkey and go to the earthquake hit zone. And this is inspiring, but this is also sad, because we don't need tragedies to have an open border. We shouldn't open the border for tragic reasons, even if it's a manifestation of goodwill of our countries. We need to have an open border for times of happiness and prosperity. And I see no reason why the Turkish-Armenian border should be closed. Frankly, if you look at the process closer, you might even find our agreement on opening the land border for third country nationals quite strange. Because, well, I was the one who made this suggestion, and Serdar accepted because I felt that Turkey is not ready to go further. But in reality, if we want normalization, furthermore, if we want reconciliation, we need our peoples to interact with each other. I don't think that Armenians in Armenia who don't interact with Turkish people get more prone to reconciliation, and I don't think that Turkish citizens who don't interact with Armenian citizens get more prone to reconciliation. Furthermore, this isolation reinforces historic stereotypes, and I don't think it's in any of our interest to continue this way. So I hope our agreement reached with Serdar and announced publicly regarding opening our land border for third country nationals and diplomatic passport holders will be materialized very soon. And I hope this will be the first step to full normalization and full unblocking of our border. And indeed, this will have an effect, a very positive effect, on the situation in the South Caucasus, and it will have a positive effect on the Armenia-Azerbaijan track as well. Thank you.
Ruben, since you mentioned there should be no reason that the two cultures shouldn't interact together, you actually gave a reference to the tragic events of 2023. I just want to make one personal note. I am a journalist for TRT World. And obviously you can imagine that we went wall to wall for many weeks on the tragedy that happened in southern Turkey. I specifically remember, actually, I think we have a correspondent, Kubra, who was also there, was next to the Armenian rescue team. We went rolling coverage on that for close to an hour. And I kind of feel that we tried to give that message out there. So thank you for touching upon that. Ambassador Kılıç, I know that you wanted to follow up on what Ruben said.
Thank you very much. I wouldn't like to prolong the discussion, but I should like to remind Ruben why, at the first place, Turkish border was closed in 1993. And secondly, yes, we agreed that we are going to open the border for third country nationals and diplomatic passport holders. But he knows that certain developments took place in Armenia that I wouldn't like to go into details because it's not the issue of today's forum. We are here to bring our views together, not push us further apart, as I have stated. So there had been some unfortunate developments that hindered the development in that regard. Of course, we would like to open the border for third country nationals and in the long run to all the populations in that regard, but when the time is ripe. And with regard to the interaction between the peoples, I think Ruben is turning a blind eye to the fact that there are several flights between Armenia and Turkey, and those flights are full, and 3 or 4 companies so far are flying several flights, I mean 5 a day even, 5 a week, Armenia, fly one Armenia, Pegasus, and so on and so forth. So there is a great deal of interaction between the peoples in that regard. And the issue of borders is not the only step that we have taken so far in the normalization process. I don't want to enumerate them over here, but we have taken a number of steps. We have opened free trade, air cargo trade between the two countries as of 1st of January 2022 or 23. 23. So, I mean, now there is free trade in that regard. And as I told you, I mean, there are several Armenian citizens living in Istanbul, and we are trying our best in that regard to help them, to assist them with their social conditions, to improve their social conditions in Turkey. So, I mean, there is a great deal of interaction between the peoples. And as I told you, the borders are going to be open when the time is ripe. And Turkey is genuinely desiring to normalize its relations fully with Armenia. And there are some steps that we need to take into account. But first of all, we have to meet. We agreed in Moscow that we are not going to put any preconditions to the ongoing normalization process. But we put, unfortunately, the opening of border as a precondition. I told Ruben several times that I am ready to come to Yerevan to conduct further negotiations, and I invited him to Ankara. But if we put the opening of borders for third country nations and diplomatic passport holders as a precondition to our meeting in Ankara and Yerevan, then we have a problem. We have to meet and talk. If we want to find a solution, the key to finding a solution in that regard is meeting. And we couldn't be able to meet since almost more than a year now. And I hope that during the course of next month or coming months, we are going to meet again, because there are a number of other issues that we need to take into account, and we shouldn't be taken hostage only by opening of the border to third country nations and diplomatic passport holders. There are a number of other steps that we can take. Thank you.
Ambassador Kılıç, thank you very much. Ruben, yeah, I'm going to give you an opportunity to reply, but obviously there is an intention of goodwill that's been put forth. Ruben, I'm listening to you.
Thank you. I think there is maybe a misunderstanding, because from Armenia's side there has been, or from my side there has never been any precondition to meet. Last time Serdar and I met in Tehran, I think. I have been in Turkey twice already and have met Serdar with our foreign minister. I have been in Turkey with the Prime Minister of Armenia for the inauguration of the President of Turkey. So there is no precondition at all, and of course we will discuss later where to meet. But when it comes to agreements, I want you and our audience to understand, in sensitive processes like this, the most important thing is realization of agreements. Because if agreements are, and the first agreements, if first agreements come into force, then our societies see that, okay, we are building trust. It's possible to work with each other. It's not a secret that there is mistrust between our societies, so we have to build it. When we don't materialize these agreements, the process goes the other way around. But I don't want to concentrate on the negative things, of course. We continue this process, and I hope Serdar and I will achieve the goal we have set together, which is full normalization of relations between Armenia and Turkey, unblocking of our border, establishment of diplomatic relations. As you see, it won't happen today, but hopefully it will happen tomorrow. Thank you.
Ruben, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we're coming towards the end of the time that has been allocated to us. I see a full audience. I'm going to open up the floor for a couple of questions. I see a familiar face. Mr. Turan, Kavarda. Can we get a microphone here? This is actually the format of this session. We're actually dedicating about 45 minutes to each of our panelists, and then a short session for questions from the audience.
First of all, I'm very thankful for the panel, and I would like to ask a question for my fellow UCL grad, Mr. Rubinyan, about connectivity in the South Caucasus, because I've heard, I mean, we've all heard about CS2 developments in Armenia, and later, in a few days ago, Mr. Alan Simonyan spoke about the EU aspirations of Armenia. So my question is, will we hear anytime soon about maybe possible freezing the relations or withdrawal from the Eurasian Economic Union? Because if Armenia is in the quest of the pro-EU, and EU is not only political but also economic union, the Eurasian Economic Alliance is another obstacle in front of Armenia. And in that case, what we call Zengezur Corridor, the corridor between Azerbaijan and Nakhchivan is mainly is issue about the customs. And what will happen next about the customs issue? So my main question is about Armenia's membership of Eurasian Economic Alliance.
Thank you for that deep end. Yes.
Thank you. The short answer regarding the Eurasian Economic Union is no, there are no such discussions in Armenia now. Regarding the connectivity, well, first it's very important to mention that if we want to achieve peace, we want to use terminology which doesn't touch the sensitivities of each other. There is no territorial unit called Zangezur in Armenia. There is a Sunnic region, there is the town of Mevri, and other towns. The position of Armenia regarding unblocking all communications in the region of South Caucasus is reflected in the Crossroads of Peace initiative put forward by the Prime Minister of Armenia. And it's based on the following principles: that all communications that existed in the Soviet era and new communications that will be agreed should be operating under full sovereignty, territorial integrity, jurisdiction, equality, and reciprocity. It's very simple. We have already agreed with Azerbaijan on these principles on different forums in Brussels mainly, but not only. If we manage to reflect these principles, these agreed principles, on paper or on the ground, we will have a major breakthrough for all our region, the South Caucasus, and as Toivo rightly mentioned, for Europe, from Central Asia, for China. I do sincerely hope that we will be able to achieve progress in this direction, because that's the only way to achieve peace. But again, it's very important when we talk to each other, and you're a fellow alumni of the university I studied in, and happy to hear that, it's very important to take into consideration our sensitivities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clark, I know that you wanted to follow up, so I'll give the floor to you.
Thank you very much. No, I just wanted to, on that point, I just want to make clear that from the EU's perspective, we absolutely respect Armenia's own decisions, and of course, all our partners' decisions regarding the way the associations they want to belong to or not belong to. So Armenia made the decision to join the Eurasian Economic Union, and we found a way of building a relationship, taking that into account. And so this is something where we see that there is potential for the development of our relationship in the present context. And of course, so Georgia has its own relationship with the European Union, which is of course much more developed. Georgia is a candidate country of the European Union. Azerbaijan has its own relationship with the European Union, and we all respect their sovereign decisions as to what kind of relationship they want to build up, and there's absolutely no insistence from the side of the EU that to develop our relationship we require certain preconditions to be fulfilled. On the contrary, we are working in the context that each sovereign country is able and willing to offer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Go. I'll open the floor up for one more question. Yes, the gentleman over there, raising his hand. Oh, can we get the microphone, actually up on the front row, sir, first?
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you very much for this excellent panel. I'm the director of the European Neighbourhood Council, and I diligently follow these subjects. My question would be, if the premise is a corridor from east to west and vice versa in terms of trade, critical raw materials and so forth, then logically, considering the escalatory situation in the world today, one would imagine that there's a need for protection of critical infrastructure, some kind of security measure along the way. Turkey has had a very important position in all of this because of its balancing neutrality in this region to some degree, especially with regards to other neighbors. So my question is to Ambassador Kilic, but also to everyone else, can Turkey play a role in the eventual future protecting critical infrastructure and having some security provision? Thank you.
Well, that's an issue that needs to be determined by the parties. I mean, if there is an invitation by the parties to Turkey to assume that kind of a role, of course it will be considered. But for the time being, it's just a speculation to talk about that kind of providing that kind of role by a third country, let alone Turkey, European Union, or someone else. That needs to be discussed by the countries, and it should be determined by the countries. So it's not up to Turkey to take an initiative in that regard. We have to wait for the decisions of the countries in that regard. And I think we are not at that point for the time being, and we shouldn't further poison the ongoing negotiations between the countries by that kind of creative, I should say, ideas, and we should leave it to the parties. But since I have the floor, I would like to propose Ruben to meet in Yerevan next week and make the declaration as of today and make this event a historical one. Thank you.
I think after that invitation, I have to give the floor to you, to Ruben. Yerevan?
We'll discuss it, dear Serdar. Later today we will meet and we'll discuss where to meet.
But you'll discuss it later today?
We'll discuss it, yes. Regarding, if I understood correctly, the question is about communications in the region of the South Caucasus.
East-West and the security of it.
Yes. I think Armenia, Georgia, and Azerbaijan are states which are perfectly capable of ensuring the security of communications on their territories. At least for Armenia, I can say that a special unit has been created under the umbrella of the National Security Service, the task of which is having additional security for communications which pass through Armenia. So I don't think there is a need for discussing this topic. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Hadjiyev, I'm going to give you the last word. Thank you.
Thank you for the question with regards to the middle corridor. Azerbaijan side, we have started the concept of the middle corridor far before the birth of the middle corridor. Because since the late 90s and understanding when Azerbaijan is a landlocked country, and we started redesigning the model of the Silk Road corridor. And first we have invested on our own capacity in the region, and along the nexus of Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Turkey, we have managed to build the linkages. And there were different components of the middle corridor. As you can see, there was one component that we call it Iron Silk Road or Iron Middle Corridor. In a sense, it's a railway concept that brings Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Turkey together. That's a bucket to basic cars. And by the way, recently Azerbaijan has started to put additional investment together with our Georgian partners to increase the capacity of the Georgian segment. And then we also agreed with our Turkish counterparts from the cars to bring that pipeline to Nakhchivan. In a sense, we will have a regional circuit of the regional connectivity line. And then Azerbaijan increased its cargo and other ship capacities in the Caspian Sea, so that to link with our Central Asian partners and friends. In a sense, we have now already established a middle corridor. I can also provide you one statistics that since 2018, we can see almost 20% increase on the cargo volume, but not up to our ultimate end. and Azerbaijan also puts an additional investment to increase the capacity of the Baku-Alat port and to handle the capacity of the 25 million tons of the cargo. There is currently what we see in the northern corridor, due to understandable reasons, in a sense it's at the situation of the paralysis, and we see additional emphasis with regards to the cargo potential of region and from China to the Europe. In a sense, Caucasus is a center between the two trading partners. That is, annual trade between China and the European Union is beyond the $700 billion US, or it could be more. And South Caucasus and Middle Corridor can provide with a strategic linkage. That's an intention of Azerbaijan's side to take this opportunity and to increase our capacities in this field. With regard to your particular question about the critical infrastructure, that's crucially important. And currently with Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, and Turkey and Georgia, we established a joint consortium, and our Uzbek friends are also looking forward. First, we are thinking about within a soft approach with regard to the handling of the cargoes, and it also is very smooth and facilitated. Because if there is a cargo that comes, it shouldn't knock on different windows or different doors. There should be one single door, and also digitalized concept of the middle corridor, so that to ease and facilitate the life of the cargo traffickers along that line. And again, if there is a facilitated approach, of course there could be certain misuse as well, and critical infrastructure protection is crucially important. There is already a well-established practice between Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Turkey with regard to critical infrastructure protection, but mainly applies to the oil and gas pipeline projects. But I think that you're absolutely right, we can apply this model. But what is thinking from Azerbaijan's side, and we are trying to reach the Turkish market, and also with our connectivity linkage with Turkey, we are outsourcing our capacity. Being a landlocked country, you need a multidimensional approach. In a sense, I think that since independence, Azerbaijan has managed to build a multidimensional linkages, and particularly with Turkey. And also we are working very hard on the north-south axis as well. In a sense, Azerbaijan's vision is that being a landlocked country, we have a capacity to link Atlantic Ocean with the Indian Ocean. There is also huge volume of the cargo. What we also currently see what's happening in Suez Channel. That means that there will be more need and more emphasis on the middle corridor. And here, one question was in a particular was the Zangezur corridor, because when we talked, here was a question about isolations and marginalization. I do also regret that Nakhchivan region of Azerbaijan is still under the isolation for the last 30 years. Azerbaijan, there is no linkages from Azerbaijan proper to Nakhchivan. And without Turkish support, and Nakhchivan couldn't live so far. And we would like to have a facilitated and simplified approach to Nakhchivan. And my colleague Anatoly here for many days, and we have discussed within the European Union, there are different models of facilitated linkages. Even there is a Kaliningrad model. Of course, we are not talking about copy-pasting of one model to South Caucasus, but at least certain parameters could be applied. Azerbaijan's intention is that there should be simplified and facilitated linkages from Azerbaijan proper to Nakhchivan. But unfortunately, so far it's another case. But I would just like to remind that under the trilateral statement of the 2020s, there was a particular obligation of Armenia to provide a facilitated and unimpeded access of Azerbaijan to Nakhchivan region. But it's up to Armenia. There are great opportunities. Armenia can benefit from the opportunities. I do regret that for the last 30 years, because of the policy of occupation and aggression against Azerbaijan,
Mr. Hajib, let's actually, I'd like to...
Self-isolation, but I think that there are new opportunities, that Armenia can also get benefit from the connectivity projects that are taking place in the region. Thank you.
Mr. Hajib, thank you very much. I want to get sort of Georgia's take on this in terms of the last question being asked and Georgia's position in terms of the East-West connectivity, and then we'll slowly wrap up the session.
I'll just very shortly say that when talking about the connectivity and the protection of critical infrastructure, here already was talked what we are doing inside of the region, what we are doing with our neighbors. But I want to add to this, there is a critical issue of the Black Sea security. And here is whole panel, I think, tomorrow about this, so I will not go into deep in this. But when talking, this is only one hand, it's also area where we can develop proper cooperation inside of region as well as of the countries of the region to other our partners. And when talking about connectivity, Black Sea Caspian Sea connectivity is critical issue for middle corridor in this, and protection of critical infrastructure is directly connected to the Black Sea security issues. And in this, I really see role not only cooperation among the countries, but cooperation with the organizations like NATO and the European Union as well. So, Turkey as a NATO member can play important role in this, as well as the other neighbors through the Black Sea for us, Romania and Bulgaria, who are at the same time NATO and EU members. I think there is a lot of avenues we still can research in future, and there is a lot of areas where we can talk about this and talk about the protection of critical infrastructure, and one of the key areas could be Black Sea security issues in this. Thank you.
Mr. Darsaleh, thank you very much. I feel that every time we ask the questions, someone wants to respond. I understand that. Here's what I've decided to do. I'm going to give 90 seconds. We're going to go down the line. And I understand we're talking about peace negotiations, normalization of relations, the connectivity issues. Yes, sensitivities are there. But we also talked about one of the common denominators, one of the common themes that has always been expressed by each and every one of you, I'd like to remind that, is a desire to move forward, progress. With that in mind, gentlemen, I give you 90 seconds to wrap up this session. Mr. Rubinyan.
Thank you. I just have to respond to Mr. Hajiev. You know, the terms we use are sometimes telling of our motivations. For example, why has Armenia decided to call its initiative of unblocking all communications in the region Crossroads of Peace? Because we want our region to be crossroads of peace. Azerbaijan continues using the term of so-called Zangezur corridor. When referring to the territory on the sovereign territory of the Republic of Armenia, there is no territorial unit in Armenia called Zangezur, and Armenia has never agreed on giving Azerbaijan an access to any corridor in its extraterritorial sense. As I said, Armenia's position is that not only it's acceptable for us, but we desire achieving unblocking of all communications and all connectivity in the region of the South Caucasus based on sovereignty, jurisdiction, territorial integrity, equality, and reciprocity.
Okay.
It's very simple. We have agreed on this. The president of Azerbaijan has agreed to this. We put it on paper. We realize it. Thank you.
Ruben, thank you very much. Mr. Hajiev, 90 seconds, please.
Yeah, because I also have a right of reply, maybe 90 seconds plus 30 seconds.
No, we'll keep it at 90.
Okay, I will
Thank
be in
you.
time.
But under the theme that which I started this round, please.
Just final remark is that it's also choice for the Armenian side to be a part of the connectivity projects if it's a choice for Armenia. If not, Azerbaijan is currently building along with Iran on the same line that lands along the Arax River. Again, it's Azerbaijan's intention to build as much as possible connectivity linkages. But I don't want to end up with pessimistic remarks. There are certain things in the region are quite optimistic. First, there is a de facto peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Last 5 months are the most silent, except in a certain local incidents are between Armenia and Azerbaijan. So last thing I would like to highlight also, there is so far unnecessary rumors that as if Azerbaijan has whatsoever intentions on the Armenian territory. For us, war is over. Azerbaijan has suffered from the occupation, and for us, military components is over. We concentrate on the regional development.
Okay.
Last thing also that Azerbaijan is also switching more global foreign policy based on the strategic partnership and variable geometries, based on our chairmanship on the non-alignment movement, and also Azerbaijan's chairmanship is in a COP29, where we are also building new models of the variable geometry, where Brazil, Azerbaijan, and United Arab Emirates are working together for the climate action. Azerbaijan doesn't want any longer to limit itself with the region of the South Caucasus, and we will build a more partnership with the Central Asian brothers and partners in the Caucasus, in the Middle East, and some other parts of the world. Thank you.
It's a good thing that you actually sped through that. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Mr. Darsaleh.
Thank you. I'll be very short. And Georgia enjoys very good relations, and as I already said, it's strategic relations with all our neighbors from the south. There is one neighbor we don't like, but with the rest we have very good relations. Well, there could be two approaches. One thing is that we will wait before we have the proper peace deal and then deal with the other issues, regional issues, or we can do vice versa. There are a lot of areas here on regional issues where we can start cooperation already, all the three. This could be economy, transport, infrastructure, ecology. There are a lot of areas where are the interests of cooperation for all the three countries, and maybe we can start there with the aim that this will help later to have positive agenda in other areas as well.
Thank you. Ambassador Kilic?
Thank you. Even shorter than 90 seconds.
Okay.
Achievement of peace, lasting peace and stability in the region is of utmost importance, and Turkey is determined to contribute in a positive sense in that regard as it has done so far. But I have to make yet another emphasis on building trust and confidence between the countries in the region. This is a key to all the developments that we are aspiring for. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clark.
Well, I think actually Ambassador Kilic has just said everything that I wanted to say.
Confidence and trust building.
From the European Union side, we are committed to supporting the process to a durable, sustainable peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan. We believe that that is in the interest of the two countries, but it's in the interest of the wider region, it's in the interest of the EU, and we will continue to make every effort in supporting the countries. But picking up on what Hikmet said at the beginning, of course, it is the responsibility above all of the leaders of the countries and to show commitment and leadership to actually sign on the dotted line. I think it is, having been involved in this process for many years now, I think it is absolutely achievable, and it could be done this year. I would hope so, that we could do it this year.
Rubinyan, Hikmet Hacıyev, Lasha Darsaliya, Serdar Kilic, Tobiya Klash. Ladies and gentlemen, this isn't an easy panel. Please join me in actually thanking each and every one of them for their responses. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Thank you. Unfortunately, we're going to have to end our session here because we are one of the first ones. There is a domino effect. We have lots to go through here at the Antalya Diplomacy Forum. Thank you very much for joining us for this panel. Enjoy the rest of the forum, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.